Allow me to tell the tale of a poor soul. Years ago, in a place soaked with the sweat of labor, there lived a boy with his mother and father. The boy grew up knowing the toils and hardship of a farm. It was all he knew aside from the love of parents and the natural beauty of the sunset. Being from a small town, the boy never dreamed big, but he did have quite the imagination. The boy heard the word spread by silver tongues across the land, and would imagine monsters attacking his way of life. He took precautions to make sure he was prepared so nothing could take away all he held dear. His parents enjoyed the sight of their son's care for the humble life given to them. In their support, they chose to gift him lessons in combat and survival. The boy surprises his teachers by his wit, his speed, and his endurance, something as a side effect from a combination of the boy's enjoyment of the exercise and determination. However, he was quite the cold shoulder when it came to emotional topics. One teacher stood out to the boy, a mysterious wanderer on a mission which he would come to know all too well, who decided to lend a few lessons to the boy in his moments of rest. The firepower hip-side the stranger was enough to pique his interest. The boy showed quick adeptness to this strange man's teachings. The wanderer would discuss the boy's future with his parents, giving them an opportunity to dwell on. After deliberation and informing the boy, the opportunity to give him the best training and suited work elated him to heights not seen, even by his parents, since he was a babe. This wandering chance happened upon a boy who would go from knowing the toils of life on a farm to the toils of existence, as Lewis Casther, the cursed Jaeger. Lewis was becoming a man. His starting years in the program were easy. He excelled with his training, per usual, and even turned out to be a prime subject to proceed with the more rigorous, even painful training that would advance his abilities to the inhuman level. Even though training took its own toll, it was nothing compared to the first mission. The first mission was significant. First taste of fear, the first taste of adrenaline. Although they were beasts haunting the people's streets, Lewis had to experience his first hunt. Blood, gore, ravenous rage filled the streets with allies under the pale, iridescent glow of the moon that flooded Luyarnha. While this was a first for Lewis, his crew was far from fresh meat. The veterans of varying age took care of the newbie, giving him pointers and assuring his safety within their group. The bond formed by these brothers of gore would run thicker than the beast's blood they shed. A decade of this happenstance family grew a great reputation among Jaegers and caitiff alike. This bond formed by blood would be torn apart by the very same. In their line of work, it's no surprise to die in action, yet it hurts all the same. It was a night much like the first they met under. The usual work drew until the moon was at its peak. Things took a turn, though, as a band of legionaries enter, a field laden with fog so thick it casts its own shadow. A night breeze sends a shiver down Lewis's spine. As he shakes it off, he is left alone with no sign of life around in what a limited space he could see. Something was realized in this moment. It's darker than it was before, and the moon looks strange. It's mostly black with a white ring that surrounds it. As his sight traces back down, the fog has diminished. However, the shadows still remain. Enveloped in the cascading darkness are figures Lewis could recognize in an instant. His brothers. The figures lay dormant on the ground. One step closer is all Lewis needed to discover the greatest horror that will ever be known to him. Bloodied, brutalized, broken. Marks of a beast not recognized vandalized the bodies. Corpses of a kindred folk with expressions of fear and sorrow in their faces. A scream that can make a god feel something finds no purchase to any medium. Tears flow as Lewis reaches for his hit. Drawn from a holster is a crude machine used for blasting holes in creatures. Clacking as the hand holding it shakes. The open end of this machine is placed against Lewis's temple. Survive together? Or die together, right? Lewis questions. The weapon falls to the ground. The shadows start to close in as the weeping continues. The moon, still dark with a white ring as the shadows swirl and envelop the broken man. Suddenly, Lewis lays alone in a field. The sunrise blinds his awakening eyes. The grass beneath him pricks his back as the realization of the torn clothes that barely lay on his body comes to him. Dazed, confused, and alone, Lewis makes his way to any help he could find. Months pass. The nightmares never cease, and the sunrise is always blinding. Multiple times now have the torn clothes dangle from his body, and a strange hint of iron haunts his taste buds. Lewis couldn't go back as a Jaeger. Something was wrong, and he needed to find out what. After researching the symptoms, just trying to find a hint of what has been ailing him for some time, he found it. Lewis was cursed to become what he spent his formative years training against, a monster. Lycanthropy now plagued his mind, his body, and his soul. What happened to his family, what happened to many others would send him into a frenzy. His hand is forced to leave and lock himself away, so he couldn't hurt anyone else. Years were spent in self-captivity, subjecting himself to the curse and the night until, finally, Lewis was able to walk among everyone else, though the fear of himself still remains. During this time, Lewis would find items that would help him along his struggles. Although he was a proud Jaeger, he couldn't return. Not as a beast, they would hunt and kill him. Instead, he would become a wanderer, like the one who taught him as a child. But more a vagabond now. A vagabond that seeks to help those in need around the city of Luyarnha and its surrounding lands. Lewis would gather much experience and even stories to tell. One example is when Lewis protected a group of civilians from a rogue magic user with a strange pistol. The gun would have a new owner shortly after. Since that night, I haven't had anyone close to me. I may never experience companionship as I once had. How can I?